everybody, it's Rain and welcome to our first challenge day of the Tour de Fleece 2022. Today, I don't think I've ever showed you guys this fleece. This is a gray and variegated gray Romeldale fleece, also known as CVM. And CVM stands for California Variegated Mutant. That's just the name of it, so everybody calls it CVM. So this is what I'm going to be using for my challenge day today. And I have some already combed top of this, and I'm also going to be combing some for you today. And we're also going to be spinning this in a really special way, and it also does something really cool when you comb it, so make sure you stay tuned. And I also have some really cool tips and tricks on how I spun this, so make sure you watch the video all the way through. I know it's a little bit longer, but I promise it will be worth it in the end. So stay tuned and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a couple handfuls and just start separating it lock by lock. And you can kind of tell the end of the lock. These locks right here are a little bit crimpier on the ends and just have kind of a more of a tapered edge on their end, instead of the cut end is more blunt and also usually has a little bit of a second cut. So this fiber is a little bit shorter. It is around 2.5 to 3 inches. So it's a little bit harder to comb, a little bit harder to separate. And even if some of the locks get turned around and the cut ends are facing the wrong way, I'm not worried about that at all. It's still going to comb out wonderfully. So I'm just pulling out lock by lock here. Just separating the locks and keeping them lined up in my hand. If you want more information on how to process and the way that I comb my fleeces, you can check the eye in the top right of your screen here. And I will link the How to Process Fleece playlist, and you'll be able to see the way that I process all of my fleeces and how I comb them and everything like that. So I'm just going to go through and pull locks out and lay them facing the same direction the best I can and put them in a little pile so we can get them lashed onto the combs. These are Valkyrie, and they are the extra fine combs. They have 2 rows of teeth. So if you look closely right here, you can see how the ends of the tip ends are a little bit more crimpier, and they're also come to a tapered point. The other ends, on the other hand, are like a blunt, it's the cut end, so that's where the animal was sheared at. So I'm lashing on with the cut ends onto the combs. The cut ends are going down on the tines with the little crimpy tip ends sticking out. Now this video is sped up. Make sure you go slower than this. Take your time. I go slower than this. This is just sped up because it's really easy to nick yourself on these tines, especially if you're dealing with a fleece that is under 3 inches. If not, sometimes longer. I've done it with longer fibers as well. Just be really careful if you are combing, especially with a shorter stapled fiber. So now that I've got a nice amount lashed on there, a little bit over halfway is usually about how far I'll go up, and I just start at the tips and start combing it through nice and gently. Try not to pull too hard, but sometimes it does take a little bit of force to get it off. And as I comb through, I will just move the comb ever so slightly up a little bit so I can get some of the shorter fibers off as well, because I'm not worried if some of the shorter fibers get tangled up in there. This is going to be more of a semi-woolen, semi-worsted style spin. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a little bit when we start spinning. So before I do my second pass through, I like to pull the fiber up a little bit, kind of spread it out on the back of the combs. And that's what we have so far. It's looking gorgeous. I could really, in reality, diz it off right now, but I'm going to go ahead and comb it through one more time just to get it a little bit smoother and get any of those extra second cuts. This fleece did have quite a few second cuts because it wasn't really a really high quality fleece, but really soft and really nice regardless. I got this fleece a really good deal on it, so I'm just combing it through one more time. And if you guys need a more in-depth tutorial on combing or anything like that, just click that eye in the top right corner and it'll take you to my playlist where there are a lot more videos on combing, a lot more in-depth. I explain a lot more of what's going on, and you should be able to get some help there. I always pull it up at the bottom and then spread it out nice and evenly before I diz it off. It's really important to not spread it out too far when you do this, and don't get it too close to the tips of those tines either. And then we are ready to diz off now. If you guys are looking for a really good quality diz, you can check out my shop in the description box below, or just go to rainfiberarts.com. I make a lot nicer quality ones than the one you're seeing here. This one was just made with me and my kids. You can never have enough dizzes, so be sure to check it out if you're in the market for another one.
Put out there, I always start in the corner and give it a little twist. You can use a threader if you want, but I just twist it a little bit and then I'll stick it through the biggest hole. You can use a smaller hole if you'd like. And I'm going to very gently start dizzing this off.
I don't really have many tips on dizzing. It just takes a little bit of practice to get used to, and once you get to where your fiber is starting to feel a little bit loose, push your fiber down all the way to the bottom and get it a little more compacted, just like I did there, and that will really help you get the rest of those fibers off. As you can see, you'll see me pushing it and pulling those fibers closer to the hole as I go.
Now this one didn't turn out as pronounced as some of the other ones have, but I do want to show y'all. Do you see the middle? The middle's a little bit darker than the outside. And you guys, this fleece right here, the same one, you can tell it's the same one. When I comb it and use some of the other parts of the fleece, this is what I end up getting. Now this is a bunch of different braids all mixed together. So here's one end. Let's go all the way down. When I pull it off, look at this. I've got it all set up for when we spin it, but look, it turns into a gradient. It's literally a gradient. It's a gradient.
So you can really see it in this setup right here. You can see how it's darker in the center and it gets a lot lighter on the outside edges. So we are going to be trying to spin a gradient for this year's Tour de Fleece challenge days. Now, my theory on why it does this is the lighter fibers are a little longer than the darker fibers. So as you're dizzing them off, you're pulling those lighter fibers off first, and it slowly turns into a gradient down to the darker fibers, which are shorter, that you're pulling off last. So what I did was took my combed top and I had to split it up, and I tried to split it up in shades. So I got my darker shades here on the right, and it's going up in gradual color gradient to the lighter shades on the left here. So I know it's a little harder to see sometimes on camera, so I took a light piece and laid it all the way across to the darkest piece so you can really see the difference in colors and shades here. So then what I did was took some of my bags that I reuse with my wool, and I labeled them 1 through 5, with 1 being the lightest and 5 being the darkest. And I think for today's challenge, the first day, we're going to use this darker one because it is a little bit shorter fiber. It's going to be the shortest, so we will be able to see how thin we can get it without compromising the strength or the softness of the fiber. So I went ahead and put it through my leader and got started. With this particular fiber, I believe I'm going to shoot for around 40 wraps per inch on the singles. I'm spinning the singles in the Z twist and going to chain ply them S twist. So it's going to be a 3-ply Navajo or chain ply, whatever you call it, and around 40 wraps per inch for the singles. So there we go. We are shooting for somewhere around 11 to 14 wraps per inch for the final 3-plied yarn, and that will equal somewhere between a lightweight 3 and a number 4 worsted weight yarn. And I want it to try to be a gradient from darkest to lightest, so you can like knit a hat or a scarf and it will be a gradient right as you knit with it or crochet with it. And I know I'm spinning this as a combed top, but it is also a little bit more of a challenge because it's kind of broken up. So it's more like an open top spin. And the crimpiness and the shortness of the fiber is making it a little bit more of a woolen spun. And I hardly ever spin woolen. I always spin worsted. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge there as well. at least for me. So I really love this shot. This shot really shows what it's going to look like when it's finished, at least what I'm shooting for. And as you guys can see, it is absolutely gorgeous. Like, this is beautiful. I love it so much. I cannot wait to see this finished. I'm really excited, and I'm also really excited to finish my other, but I'm definitely more excited for this. So the next couple clips are going to be about how this fiber was spinning. Here is a really up close video. I really like making the up close videos. I think it helps the most with spinning technique and learning new techniques and things like that. So here is how I normally spin. This is the short forward draw. And this is how I primarily spin. I usually never deviate from this, but in this particular case, I did want to challenge myself. And I was finding it a little bit difficult to keep the same consistency throughout. So I found a little bit better of a technique, which is more of a woolen spun type of technique, more of a long draw. So we're going to take a look at that here in just a second. So this is what it was looking like as I spun just a little bit of it on the bobbin so far. It's a beautiful, like, brownish gray dark color. Very, very nice. And this is really soft. Like, it's a lot softer than it looks. And here is our join. I always like to film a nice up close join. This was definitely one of the easiest fibers to join that I've ever spun with. Very simple. I just pull that twist out, get all the little neps out. It had quite a few neps in it, which I'm not worried about. You're going to have that with shorter staple fibers a lot of the times. And then just start drafting like you normally would after the twist starts to come back into that fiber that you just added in. So very smooth, very easy. This fiber has been an absolute joy to spin. But I did want to show you this little bit of a new technique that I kind of implemented with this fiber. And as you can see here, it is staying at a consistent 40 to 30 wraps per inch, which is perfect. And it is looking wonderful. So enough chit chat, let's go ahead and look at this new technique, and I'm going to go ahead and put the audio on that I pre-recorded while I was spinning, so it'll be a little bit more helpful for you guys, hopefully.
Alright you guys, I have this much left now, so I'm going to show you a new way that I've been spinning this. It's really been helping me. It's a little bit different than the short forward draw. It is more of a woolen style spinning. It's letting the twist come back into the fiber a bit. And let me just show you a little demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and hit my foot pedal. And if you watch, this is how I normally spin. I keep my fingers nice and tight, and I'll pull up as I go. A very short forward draw. And then I don't let much of that twist come back into the fiber supply. So what I'm going to do is, instead of keeping my fingers right down here and kind of doing it like that, I'm going to have my fingers up a little bit further and kind of let go a little bit each time. And let me just show you what I mean. So as you can see, we're letting a little bit of twist come in. There's my normal short forward draw, just like so. Let me go ahead and get this little piece spun right here. Alright, so now we're getting into some of the more fibrous pieces. So I'm going to move my fingers up and kind of let it go a little bit and just let that twist come on back in. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and just have my fingers up a little bit more. Kind of just keep opening my fingers. As you can see, open, open. I'll get that one going in there. Just open my fingers and let that twist come back in. And you can see I'm kind of making it more of a little bit more of a long draw than just the short forward. It's still pretty short, and I kind of go back and switch between the two a little bit. But it was definitely helping when I had some more of those clumpy pieces that just weren't spinning right with the short forward draw. Just let a little bit more of that twist come in, and I think that would be a really, really good technique to use with a shorter stapled fiber as well. And I'm still using this hand back here as my brake. And as you can see, it's doing the same thing that it does whenever I spin. It's keeping it really thin. I'm just keeping my fingers a little bit higher up and letting that twist come in a little bit more than I normally do with my standard short forward draw. So this is going to make your yarn a little bit more fluffy and a little bit more airy and soft. It's going to be really squishy, really soft. CVM is wonderful for that, absolutely wonderful fiber for that. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out.
Right here is a really, really nice clip of what I'm exactly doing right here.
And if it gets to be too thick, I will put my thumb down back here and I'll thin it out. Like I'll pull as I'm putting my thumb down, add some resistance to it, and it will pull that fiber right back to the thinness I need. Just like that. I'll twist this right around this little peg here. Just like that. And here it is on our spin card. It is right at 11, maybe 12. I'm going to go and say it's around 12 to 13 wraps per inch. Oh, it's going to be so beautiful.
So here is what we finished on our first challenge day. I finished that whole bag of bag number 5, which is the darkest shade of our gradient. And I'm really, really excited for the next challenge days and the rest of the Tour de Fleece. So I hope you hit that subscribe button and hit your notification bell if you haven't already to be notified when I upload my next video. I'm keeping up with the tour pretty well, and I will see you guys tomorrow, if not the next day. Let me know in the comments below what you're working on, and I've enjoyed seeing all the other fiber artists here on YouTube and on the other social media platforms. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all. Happy spinning, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.
You stupid fly. Go on. Go on.